Hey guys, welcome to this new video. And before we start, I have a confession to make. Wait, there's a proper way of making confessions in YouTube, right? How is it? Yeah. I never thought I would have to make a video like this, but I don't want to keep lying to you guys. I've been lying about my appearance. It's just that, online you can get to be whatever you want, but in reality that is not true. So I want to show you how I really look. I hope you can stand it. I only have one eyebrow. I'm so ugly. Hey guys, welcome back. As you can see, I fixed my hideous deformity. Now I look more or less like a real human being. If you have seen the movie that I'm going to talk about today, then that hideous gag probably made sense. If not, don't worry, I'll explain it in a bit. So, I went and saw Ready Player #1. And it was interesting. Now the thing about Ready Player #1 is that it is boasting a lot on this love for nostalgia, especially 80s and pop culture, which is fine. The thing that this movie has that a lot of people seem to be like really stoked about it is that it just acknowledges that the 80s happened, and a lot of shows and things are doing that right now. I think the most obvious thing that this is trying to take from is, of course, Stranger Things. So, do I like 80s and 90s pop culture? Yes, I absolutely do. I love gaming culture, I love movies, so this should have been very right up my alley, right? Because I love pop culture from the 80s and the 90s, this was actually a rather frustrating experience. And the thing about Ready Player #1 is that it does have a lot of nice visuals and nice references, some of them, to great pop culture of the 80s. And other things are just like, I think this is the word I'm trying to use. They're kind of just masturbatory. They're just there so you can see them and you can be like, ah, yes, that, and ah, yes, that. The best way I can explain it with the visual is, remember?
Yeah, remember Alex? Remember? Hey, remember Ghostbusters? Oh, I remember Slimy? Slimy.
How could someone think these things are bugs?
So there is a lot of those instances. And also there's this thing about comedy. Someone once said, if you have to explain the joke, then it's probably not that funny. It doesn't only apply to comedy, it also applies to referencing. It's really nice, when you're either playing a video game or seeing a movie or whatever, and there's like a reference on the back, and then you see it by yourself, and then you can be like, oh yeah, that thing, I remember it, and that's always great. Because like you're actually looking for them. This movie does kind of have stuff like that, For instance, they do show Minecraft at one point, and you just kind of see it pass by, and you're like, oh, Minecraft. That's fine. But like more than half of the references of this movie are just like the member berries. They're just like, remember Akira?
Remember?
Kaneda!
Remember Iron Giant?
Oh, I
Remember Gundam? Like, when the thing appears, they point it out. They're like, oh yeah, that is the bike from Kaneda in Akira, movie animated from Japan in the 80s. And it's like, yes, I know. It's part of like why I want to see this movie, because I know there was going to be a lot of references. You know, they also have the DeLorean. And again, you see the DeLorean, you identify it, and you're like, that's nice. But no, the movie has to go and say it. This is the DeLorean, the car that was used as a time machine in the trilogy Back to the Future in the 80s, with McFly as the driver. And it's like, yes, I know. So when you explain the references, it takes away from it. It's kind of like seeing a big conglomerate behind the movie trying to be like, see, we get the youth because we get these references. See, we know where they're coming from. And it's hilarious that we mention corporations and conglomerates, because it's part of the story. So, yeah, you have to talk about the references when talking about Ready Player #1, because like 80% of the movie is references, because the story, my God, the story. Oh, the story with Ray, I have said the name of this movie so many times. The story of the movie, it's based on a YA book, and that already was kind of a red flag for me. I wasn't really that interested in seeing it, but I knew that it was going to be a lot of references, and I was like, well, I don't know. But a friend of mine wanted to see it, and all we both knew is that it was based on a YA book, like young adult fiction. Young adult fiction, it's very tricky, because yes, you have your Twilights, you have your Hunger Games, you have your vampires, you have your maze runners, but they're all kind of the same thing. It's usually about teenager X that does a thing and probably finds love along the way. This one is kind of like that. It's a hero's journey. It's a basic story. It can be very entertaining, It's about a guy that's living his life, and then something happens and he goes on a journey and saves the world along the way, and he meets friends and whatever. It's a very basic story, but it can be really entertaining. And this one, because it's based on video games, it lends itself for that. So we have white bread teenager, because let's face it, I don't even remember it. Like, it was like a play on words on the word what's, because get it, nerd things, what's, and his dad, probably his name was Like, okay, his name wasn't but you get it. Like, they were trying to be cute, and it's like, it's not, it's stupid. So the whole thing that revolves about the movie is that VR became a world phenomenon, and now everyone pretty much lives on VR, in virtual reality. There's no like real sense of actual reality. Great commentary, right? The thing is that the movie doesn't go all the way there. So I have a lot of issues with this movie, especially on the story department. So I'm just gonna list them, and you guys can pause and read them. And then for the video, so we're not here talking for hours, I'll just address the bigger issues that I had. So yeah, these are the issues. So, like I said, the story is very typical. It's about this kid and the inventor of the reality world, and he died, and he left his chocolate factory for the world to take. They just have to finish finding 3 keys to find an Easter egg. Sounds good. And 5 years have passed, and no one can find the first key for finding the Easter egg. And that is one of the first things that bothered me a lot, because he got like a clue, And the clue was that he had to, the setting is that in order to find the key on this map, you have to do some sort of Mario Kart racing. And the way to find the key is that he had to drive in reverse. And that's when I started getting icky about this. You're telling me that we're basing this movie of nerd culture and gaming culture and pop culture in general, and in 5 years that this contest for being the heir of the chocolate factory, it never occurred to anyone to drive in reverse? Do you know how fast the internet is? I remember when either, pop culture games that came out in the past years, like Five Nights at Freddy's or Doki Doki Literature Club, in a matter of hours, people finished the games, made Reddit posts, there was like secrets already being uploaded to YouTube. Do you know how fast and obsessed people in the internet are with video games? And you're telling me that it took them 5 years to realize they have to drive backwards? That already shows a huge disconnect with how the writer thinks of nerd culture and how things actually are. So, okay, of course, our teenager finds the thing, Imogene, and he, of course, meets girl Y, who's also, like, the love of his life. And they do bring one important thing, that he's in love with the avatar, and that it's very true nowadays. We fall in love with what we see sometimes online of a person. We sometimes see them more, we're exposed more to the people online than in real life with chats, with social media. That was a really great commentary, and especially this one took it a step forward by saying that the avatars could be whatever you wanted. You didn't have to be like an avatar of a boy or of a girl. You could be whatever you wanted. You could be a monster, you could be a fairy, you could be a mermaid, you could be whatever. The sad thing is that, like I said, they didn't go all the way, because our boy, teenager, his avatar is a boy. Like, yes, he has like elf ears, but it's a boy. It's like a Final Fantasy character, pretty much, like pretty boy. And the girl, she's also a girl. Like, they could have gone all the way and made her avatar, I don't know, like a cat or a monster or whatever. No, she's like a very, very elfish like avatar. And she's like, you're not in love with me? You're in love with my avatar. And it's like, yes, that makes sense. So through shenanigans, they're gonna meet. And we're gonna like see her for the first time, and you're expecting it. But before we go to that, because that is, to me, that is the worst part of this movie. So I didn't know this, guys, but EA makes an appearance in the movie. They're the villain. It's great. So the villain of the movie is this huge conglomerate thing, like this huge corporation that it's pretty much EA. Like, I could just see it, like, the way that they talk about things, the way that they go about their business, it's so shady, and they're all about, like, we don't care about the video games, it's all about the money. Yes, we will control all the cybernetic currency, and then we will make real money. We will control all in microtransactions, and we'll give loot crates and destroy good franchises like Star Wars. And I really like that, especially the main villain. He's hilarious. And he's one of the saving graces for me with this movie. It's the same actor that played the villain in Rogue One, which also in that one he was hilarious as well. He's really good at being very whiny. He's always very whiny. and he makes old people mistakes with his data on the internet. One of the, I think, better jokes in the movie is that he leaves his password on a piece of paper by his VR set. And I think it's something that old people would do. Just like write a very self-congratulatory password and just like leave it there for anyone to see, like not give two flying fucks about it, which I thought was very funny. And he makes these great whiny faces. He's like, oh, I don't want to be involved with nerds. I just want the money. And every time he's on the screen, it's wonderful. It's hilarious for all the right reasons. So of course, this corporation wants to find the Easter egg and be like the owner of the chocolate factory. And so they kind of do what yeah, Willy Wonka. It's like they said it was like a great inspiration for this, and I can see it. You know how Veruca, her dad, she's like the rich girl from Willy Wonka, has like a lot of people come in and open a lot of chocolate bars to see if they found the golden ticket. The golden ticket. That's what this guy does. So he pretty much builds a concentration camp, has a lot of people play the video game in order for each one of them to try and find the keys, which is fine. But this is the thing that bothers me. So they're saying that this, well, yeah, they're just like dead camps, pretty much, because apparently a lot of people have died owning them electronic currency. And they're like concentration camps in the sense that they can be ripped off of all their freedoms, they can be tied, they can be slaved, they can have no money in the real world, all their possessions can be possessed. And even at one point, this evil corporation bombs a living complex, which is where our character, white teenage boy, lives with his aunt. And they kill the aunt. Don't worry about it, she's not a real character. He barely remembers her name. I forgot completely that she existed by the end of the movie. But the thing is that, so this corporation does all of this. In general, it would be okay in a story if the corporation owned the world. If they were like the ultimate evil on the world. That they have the power and the means to do this because there's no real law. They are the law. There's police officers in this movie at the end of it. Where was the police? Why does the police allow all this company has bombs with them and kill people? They don't get arrested. At the end of the movie, it's just like, oh yeah, you killed a lot of people in this facility complex, right? Yes. Oh, okay. And this to me was very frustrating because this could have been so easily fixed. Don't show the cops. Or better yet, make the evil corporation be the owner of the world, and why that would give importance as to why it's better than for a teenager to win the chocolate factory than this evil corporation, because they already own the world. We want to free the world. We want to reclaim our freedoms. That would have been great. But by making this just a evil corporation that they just want money, it makes no sense. There are no real stakes. And that is another thing that bothers me. There's no real stakes. If everyone takes off the BRs, there's like a bottom to turn off the BRs. If they just turn off all the BRs, what? Like nothing happens. The world doesn't end. The economy doesn't falter. You just lose the childlike fantasy of living in a video game. That's not enough when they're trying to make it this very important war for all the freedoms and all the rights and all the money. If all that you lose is just your BR and it's like losing, you know what it's like? It's losing your saved data in a video game. Frustrating as fuck. You get very angry, but you can go on without all your saved data from a video game. That's about it. So I was talking about the girl and the aunt. If it looks like I'm making the aunt a side note, don't worry, the movie does too. So they make this huge deal about the girl not looking like her avatar. So pretty much what happens is this. Girl X, I love you. I mean, you're like the love of my life. I could forgive whatever you look like. No, teenage boy, You don't know what I really look like. I made myself look different online. That's what you're in love with. Yeah, I know you. I know you. Like if I see you in the real world, you could be like Danny DeVito and I will still love you. He is very ugly, but not as ugly as me. Are you sure that you want to see me? Okay. I only have one eyebrow. Oh my god. You don't have an eyebrow. You're so deformed. But I still love you. You do? Didn't your aunt just died? Who? Oh yeah, my aunt just died. Oh. It's cool, I guess. I tried to... What I did I think is more interesting. Like, miserably covering my eyebrow. What happens in the movie is that she's like introduced like what I was doing, you know, like this. And you don't see her face properly. It's really, really obvious that they're trying to like cover her eye. And I was thinking, oh, she's missing the whole eye, like the socket or something. And then she goes like this. And she's like perfectly beautiful and everything. The only thing is that she has like a birthmark that it's like here. She's like a Dalmatian. That's it. That's her whole deformity. And all I can think is, what, in 2045, there's no makeup? This again was really frustrating because she's perfect in every way. There's nothing wrong with her. Honey, if you have a birthmark in your eye, you're fine. There are people that don't have arms or eyes. Again, if they would have gone further with this, like give her a big, intimidating scar, maybe. Or again, I thought she was missing the whole eye. If she was missing the whole eye, like kind of like Carl in The Walking Dead, that would have been great, you know, because that's something that you can tell she's very afraid of. But it was a fucking birthmark. And also, she's like the same age as he is. They're both perfectly beautiful human beings. It was very frustrating because they have this whole talk about how, you know, the internet, when you see someone on the internet, it's not everything that they seem. They could have gone really interesting with this. Actually, they show her from the back the first time, and then she speaks and you recognize her from the voice. I thought she does have a very sultry voice, the actress. I thought she was going to be older than him. Like she was going to be in her 40s or something. And, you know, that would have been interesting. Like, oh, I thought you were a teenager or like a young adult like me, but actually you're way older, and still him loving her in spite of that. What they do with this whole not everything is as it seems is that his best friend, his best buddy, who is like this huge, super macho guy, he is the one that it's not everything as it seems. He's a girl. I think it would have been more interesting. Like there were so many things that would have made this more interesting. But to me, that was one of the biggest flaws of the movie. Like, oh my god, I'm so ugly. And like she had like, you're a Dalmatian. You're fine. You're perfectly fine. That was very upsetting. And like I said, those to me are the most big offenses of the movie. That the actions of the characters have no real world consequences. Whoever wins the chocolate factory, what? They don't explain it right. And the girl is also very, very annoying with her Amogly thing. The aunt, so they kill the aunt. And she dies in front of our protagonist, teenager, white teenage boy. And cut to, he sees the girl for the first time. His aunt just died in front of him. And instead of being like, they killed my aunt. Like this hideous company, they're so big and powerful. They don't care. They killed my aunt. No, he's like, oh my god, do you want to bang? Like you're so beautiful with your Dalmatian spot. Like, he really doesn't bring up the aunt at all. And then at the end of the movie, when he sees again the bad guy, and he tells him, "You killed my mother's sister." I'm not lying, guys. I totally forgot who he was talking about. I thought it was like a thing in the past that that happened before the movie started, and then I was like, "Oh yeah, right, they killed the aunt." I totally forgot that she existed. Why add her? Don't add her. He looks like he's in his 20s. He's perfectly fine living on his own. He doesn't even is in the house that often. Like, why add an aunt? Just get rid of her. And so, again, all these things that are very frustrating with the story could have been edited out. Could have been they could have been edited when they were making the story. The aunt, they could have just easily not made her there at all. It's fine if he doesn't have family. He has his friends that are very important to him. The thing with the girlfriend, they could have made her more, it's gonna sound ugly, more physically ugly, or give her something that at least gives us a reasonable belief that she at least feels ugly, or that she feels deformed or mangled in some way. And the other thing is that they completely negate, well, they don't negate, they just ignore the 90s and the 2000s and the 2010s. There was so much culture and pop culture that happened there. They just ignore it like it doesn't exist. They suck the living shit out of the 80s, but the 90s and the 2000s is like it didn't happen. Video game likes it. I hate this really, really much about movies that come out and they talk about the video games in the 80s. Yes, they were fun video games, but let's not joke ourselves. The video game industry, because they're like the Atari, the video game industry almost died with the Atari. If you want to talk about the video game industry, we know that it really took off with the Nintendo 64 and the SNES. You had your Final Fantasies, nowhere to be seen. You had the Zelda. Of course, Nintendo was like, no, you won't include me into this. So there were no Pokemon, there were no Marios, there were no Zelda. Great part of gaming culture. Nowhere to be seen. They had something really great from the 2000s, which was Minecraft. Was only seen in one scene at the beginning, never brought up again. When I saw the Minecraft, I really thought they were going to use them. Like maybe see a creeper on the back and like exploding, or just like coming up and screwing with you. That would have been great. They use Overwatch characters as cameos. They don't do anything. They use Halo as background decoration. They don't do anything. And again, they really just are like obsessed with the 80s. That's fine. But don't try to say that you're representing the whole gaming culture and just talk about a decade. What I think could have fixed this is to say that, they do talk that once the VR world started, the world changed forever. What they could have done is that at the end of the 80s, they could have had any event happen in the world. Like, I don't know, the internet never happened. There was a war that preventing the 90s, the 2000s, and the 2010s to be the way that we know them. That's why the last remnants of pop culture of how the world used to be is from the 80s. That's why we're so obsessed with recreating the 80s. Because that's the last we remember of pop culture. That would have been great. But again, the way that it is, it just looks like it's just kissing the ass of the 80s. The 80s were fun, man. They were great. I wasn't alive at the 80s. I was born in the 90s. But still, I get it. I get that you get the nostalgia from your decade. But if you're going to talk about gaming culture in general, don't go to the very beginning and say it was the best. It wasn't the best. It was an interesting beginning. It had great movies, but it wasn't the best. The one thing I didn't like how they introduced it in the story. It was stupid, But what I did like that I think this movie did really well was, of course, the Shining sequence. So they find the key, and they have to find 3 keys to get the Easter egg, to get the chocolate factory. And the second one is inside a movie. So now I'm gonna bitch before I talk about this, just so I can get it out of the way and then say my praises with this, is that the clue is that it's an author that has its own work. So they choose The Shining because Stephen King didn't like the movie. Stephen King didn't make the movie, he made the book, and he really likes his book. That's why he hated the movie so much, because he thought that Stanley Kubrick ruined his book. And Stanley Kubrick, I'm pretty sure, liked his movie. So this makes no sense. I'm pretty sure that they put it is because Spielberg loved very much Mr. Kubrick. They were really good friends. Again, that one I will say is more of a pet peeve than an actual... all the other things, yes, they're actual things I don't like about the movie. That's a pet peeve, because to me that made no sense. Anyway, so they go inside the movie, and this is a great use of using references from the 80s in a positive manner. This was the best use of them throughout the whole entire movie. What they do is that they go inside the movie, they recreate the hotel. It looks great because they recreate the iconic scenes from the movie. Like the twins, they do appear and they are like, come play with us. And then the elevator opens and it's the blood, it comes out of it. And not only that, they make it look like a video game would. You know, they do have like the force of the hotel being against you. Then they place them in the maze and it's like axes everywhere. And it did feel like a video game. I was thinking, if they ever make The Shining a video game, I would want it to look like this. I would play this video game. That's, I think, the best comment that I can give that section of the movie. That it was like a video game, and all I could think was, I want to play this video game. And that's the whole point. It should make you love the references. Should be like, you know, you see the DeLorean, for instance, and the DeLorean does some cool shit in the racing, and then you're like, if Back to the Future was a video game, I would want it to be like that. It should have been more of those. It really is a case of less is more. They should have used less references, focus on the ones that they choose, and exploit the living hell out of them, like they did with the Shining part. So, should you see Ready Player Number One? Yeah. I am frustrated, as you can see. Again, it's because I really like everything that was on the movie. Video games, movies, music, everything, I really like it. And the way that it was handled, it was just like, we get you nerds. We got you. We're just gonna put a lot of stuff in it. And this is a Warner movie, so Warner has the movie rights for Batman. You guys know me, I love Batman. I was so sick of Batman, I was like, oh my god, go away. Because every 5 minutes, it was like, we're Warner, we own Batman. We're Warner, we own Batman. We're Warner, we own DC. Even the bad guy, his avatar, I'm pretty sure it was either Bruce Wayne or Clark Kent, or like a marriage of the both of them. And I do have more grievances with the movie, but those are my biggest ones. Even so, if you think you would like to see something that, you know, it was made by Steven Spielberg, directed, sorry, by Steven Spielberg. At the end of the day, he made the summer blockbuster what it is. He does make it with lots of love. And there's also Simon Pegg in it, another huge star that it's a great nerd, and he loves all his references, all his Easter. A friend of mine described the movie as full of Easter eggs. You know, so if it's something that seems interesting to you, just maybe seeing them and trying to see what you recognize, I think you will enjoy it. I really couldn't turn a blind eye to the things that bother me in the story, like the plot holes and stuff like that, which is why I'm so frustrated with it. But if you know you're not such a picky person like I am, you will enjoy it. It does have, the characters that it has are cute, except for the aunt, which is really not a character. I like that the man that created it, it's very much a man-child, that his life kind of went away because he spent it all online. He does not shy away from that. So it wasn't my cup of tea. But if you're interested, go see Ready Player Number One. I still have to finish the after Oscars video blogs. I'll admit I've been putting it off because part of me is not that interested in seeing Lady Bird. But I'll make time and I'll do them. And if not, I'll probably just jump Lady Bird and see I, Tonya, which is one that I'm more interested in, and we'll revisit Lady Bird later. So thanks for watching. Sorry for being so angry on this. I think I was really angry when I left the theater. I was really upset. And thank you for watching. Like if you enjoyed this video, and consider subscribing maybe. Thank you, and see you next time. Bye.